Ladies and gentlemen, in this video, I'm going to tell you what House Speaker Nancy Pelosi just said today, September 18th, 2020, in regards to negotiations for the next round of stimulus. I'm also going to cite some more crumbling economic indicators that we have to relate to our congressional leaders, our government officials, our U.S. president, to ensure that we substantiate our arguments and demands that they fund the monetary ammunition we need to save this country through another round of stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment insurance payments, and funding for the full disbursement by the Small Business Administration of the $10,000 Economic Injury Disaster Loan Grant to all legitimate small business applicants. U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi started her interview on Bloomberg Balance of Power by announcing that Democrats and the administration were very close to announcing a continuing resolution to ensure that the federal government stays open beyond September 30th, the end of the fiscal year for the federal government. She emphasized that it would be a clean continuing resolution, meaning that no parties would attach any provisions for disaster relief in this deal. Bloomberg Balance of Power reporter David Weston asked Speaker Pelosi whether the continuing resolution would ensure the federal government stayed open through December or beyond that. She declined to comment on whether the continuing resolution would keep the federal government open beyond December or through December or beyond that. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi then responded to Bloomberg Balance of Power reporter David Weston when he told her that the latest stimulus bill is calling for $1.5 trillion in disaster relief funding. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi stated that Democrats stayed firm on their position, on their offer for $2.2 trillion. Speaker Pelosi argued that both House Democrats and Senate Democrats wanted $3.4 trillion through the HEROES bill. Nonetheless, by changing the duration of the provisions listed in the HEROES Act, the Democrats were able to drop their offer by $1 trillion if the administration will be willing to increase their offer by $1 trillion. That put her to $2.4 trillion. Then, you know that on behalf of Democrats in the House, Speaker Pelosi dropped the offer to $2.2 trillion. She also stated that she slashed the proposal in half, and that basically puts the Democrats at $2.2 trillion. I don't know how cutting $3.4 trillion in half puts Democrats at $2.2 trillion, because $3.4 trillion in half is actually $1.7 trillion, which, as you know, as per previous videos, when she initially announced that Democrats would be willing to slash their offer in half, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin's staff scrambled and called Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's office, and she stated, listen, if you're willing to slash your proposal in half, that brings you close to 1.7, then we're willing to do that, because, as you know, Treasury Secretary Steve Mnuchin went on record to state that after the administration was offering $1.1 trillion, that the administration would be willing to come up with more money. So from 1.1 to 1.7, I guess it was small enough for them to see little daylight in between each other and ultimately make a deal. Nonetheless, Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi's staff retracted that offer. They did not make a deal on that day. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi went on to praise the Federal Reserve's monetary policy to shore up public markets. Nonetheless, she stated that according to Federal Reserve Chairman Jerome Powell's contention, that although the Federal Reserve is shoring up public markets with monetary policy, that Congress, through their powers of taxation and spending, have to provide fiscal support. As you know, as per previous videos, I have reported that Jerome Powell, when he testified before Congress, he stated that all improving economic indicators, drops in unemployment rates, the increases in consumer spending that were reported in the spring and the summer, came due to the fiscal support prior to the initial round of stimulus checks, support for the unemployed, and the gradual reopening of the economy. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi also stated that the Federal Reserve has contended that the financial stability of state and local governments is absolutely critical, ladies and gentlemen. And she argued for this. You know, as per yesterday's video, when Democrat leaders, together with Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, they highlighted the $75 billion that the HEROES Act is calling for contact tracing and testing. You know how Democrat leaders such as New Jersey Congressman from the 6th District, Frank Pallone stated that although New Jersey has been very successful in keeping virus cases low, when there was a slight uptick in virus cases through contact tracing and testing, the state was able to identify that the increase came due to large gatherings in the Jersey Shore and Rutgers University. She also stressed that any stimulus plan had to include funding for airlines, funding for retail establishments, funding for small businesses, and she stated that perhaps since perhaps other issues have arisen since the Democrats passed the HEROES Act, that they would have to reassess whether $2.2 trillion is enough. That number of Democrats actually want to go back to the $3.4 trillion. And since they have to package funding for airlines, restaurants, small businesses, retail outlets, then it may be even more than 2.2 or $3.4 trillion. So the top line number is up in the air. She also stressed that states and local governments, they needed funding through contact tracing and testing to ensure that they can crush the virus, and money for schools, so states can have the funding to adequately and safely reopen schools and thus reopen the economy, ladies and gentlemen. She also stated that this weekend, sadly, the United States will suffer 200,000 deaths due to the virus and due to GOP lawmakers, according to U.S. House Speaker Nancy Pelosi's contempt for science. She also stated that science has given us all the answers. Due to their contempt for science, that they have shown an increased unwillingness to provide the needed funding to state and local governments to ensure that they keep essential healthcare workers, police officers, firefighters, sanitation workers, transportation workers, teachers, all on payroll. If for some reason these essential workers become unemployed, then there'll be a reduction in services in the states. Taxes will go up, and these people will have to file for unemployment insurance. According to Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, that is absolutely senseless, ladies and gentlemen. She also criticized and slammed Mitch McConnell for announcing that the federal government should just let states go bankrupt. She said that that was a terrible idea and that statement didn't even qualify as an idea. Now, here are the crumbling economic indicators that I told you we have to relay to our government officials to ensure that they fund all the monetary ammunition we need to save this country, ladies and gentlemen. JP Morgan Chase, which tracks credit card spending data, found on Friday, announced that last week, consumer spending dropped by 6.5%. That is an increase in 3 percentage points from the week prior, because the week prior there was a 3.5% drop. Now, the 6.5% drop in consumer spending, that's 6.5% less than the same week last year. The week before last week, there was a 3.5% drop in consumer spending when compared to the same week in 2019. So there's a 3%. So that is showing that there is an increase in a drop in consumer spending, ladies and gentlemen. Consumer spending, according to tracktherecovery.org, dropped by 7.3% in August when compared to January of 2020. As you know, consumer spending that is performed by the American people constitutes 70% of GDP, of the gross domestic product. The monetary value of finished goods in a country within a certain period of time. Brown University economist John Friedman found that the drops in gross domestic product that the country has suffered this year has mostly come from drops in consumer spending. The 31.7% drop in gross domestic product in the second quarter, out of that 31.7% drop in the gross domestic product in the second quarter, average household consumer spending accounted for a whopping 24.76%, ladies and gentlemen. So they are doing the country no favors by continually dragging their feet to the bone of their heels. I showed you the skid marks on Capitol Hill when we vlogged directly in front of it, ladies and gentlemen, back in the summer. They're doing anybody any favors. They're not allowing you initially to ensure that you save your families, feed your families, save your businesses, and keep your employees on payroll so everyone can make the contribution towards consumption to expand the gross domestic product. So you could say we're having an awesome year. So the president could say, my portfolio is awesome. We're on the right track. We're going to have explosive 2021. So they could prove and substantiate their arguments that they're doing everything they can to save the economy. They're not doing that by dragging their feet on it. And they're all working together. All of them. Speaker of the House Nancy Pelosi, President Donald Trump, GOP lawmakers, government officials. They're all working in cahoots. I've showed you several times, time and time again, how Ben Cardin, he gave the Small Business Administration, Democrat Ben Cardin from the state of Maryland, gave the Small Business Administration the discretion to fund the Economic Injury Disaster Loan grants at $1,000 per employee, or a pumpkin pie slice per employee, whatever the SBA deemed fit to distribute to small businesses, ladies and gentlemen. Blatant disrespect for 99.9% of all businesses in the United States. Therefore, we have to go in contact. Again, we can keep contacting the same people because I'll just keep I'll keep citing more crumbling economic indicators. These things, they just keep on popping up. They keep arising every single day. You can keep on telling them, you're not telling them the same thing. It's not repetitive. It's not spam of any shape or form. They work for you, ladies and gentlemen. You have to demand that they give you your money that you need to save your country, ladies and gentlemen, because they're not going to do it. So we contact sbc.senate.gov. Site. Now, not you. It's not coming from you. JP Morgan Chase, probably the biggest bank on the planet, is finding that there are considerable drops in consumption, in consumer spending. And a lot of it is coming due to their lack of action on the next round of stimulus, giving you the funding that you need to save this country in a safe and efficient manner, ladies and gentlemen. They had improving economic conditions when they dispersed support for small businesses, stimulus checks, support for the unemployed, and the gradual and safe opening of the economy. Nonetheless, the recovery is slowing down considerably, and they have to do everything they can to ensure that you save your families, feed your families, save your businesses, keep your employees on payroll to ultimately save this country. You can find all your elected representatives, all your government officials. You can find contact information for them on usa.gov/elected-officials, and let them know that you demand that they provide funding for S.4227, the SBA's full disbursement of the $10,000 Economic Injury Disaster Loan Grant for all small business applicants, all legitimate small business applicants. I stress legitimate because it's not our fault the SBA dropped the ball and dispersed thousands of fraudulent grants and loans for hundreds of millions of dollars, stimulus checks, enhanced unemployment payments, and whatever other form of monetary ammunition you require and demand to secure your unalienable rights of life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness that, according to the Declaration of Independence, you have been endowed by your Creator. Otherwise, you will exercise your duty to alter and abolish this government so they can secure your safety and happiness, ladies and gentlemen. Let me know what you think. Drop your comments in the comments section below. Watch this video right here. For more economic injury disaster loan grant and stimulus coverage, click the like button if you like the video. Click the subscribe button to stay on top of my findings. We mobilize like no one else will, and stop at nothing until each and every one of you gets everything for which you are eligible to save this country. May God bless you. May God bless the United States of America and everybody else on this planet. Talk soon. Have an awesome weekend.